Quick video today on something that I've been thinking about lately as I've run across a few things that I haven't thought about for a while. And I wanted to mention this because this is something that a lot of new collectors might fall victim to if they're really excited about getting something that is new and fresh on the market. Now, this can apply to things that are numerous things, like U.S. Mint products. This can apply to recently discovered error types on a particular coin, or varieties, or pseudo-varieties even. We'll mention that in a second. But it's that in the beginning, when something is new and fresh, it's often very exciting to new collectors, and oftentimes those things can taper in value over time. Sometimes it's naturally tapering, and sometimes it's because of the fact that more of them are known to exist than what was originally thought. And sometimes it can just be that there is hype that starts out, and by the end, the hype is gone. Today I'm going to talk about a few examples of different types of things like this, and we're going to look at whether a particular coin you want to add to your collection might actually be worth the money today, where it's actually going to still have that money on down the road. What got me thinking about this is the upcoming release of the superhero gold coins from the US Mint. I mean, I'm looking at it right now on my other computer screen, and that Superman gold coin coming out this year from the US Mint looks pretty freaking cool, don't get me wrong. I like it. I wouldn't mind having one. But there's a problem with a lot of things when it comes to something like this coin. So far on the $50 gold, as well as the metals, both in 1 ounce and 2.5 ounce, there is not a production limit that's been set, that's at least published on the Mint site that I can see, as well as there's not a price. But two things I can usually tell you are going to be the case. Usually the production from the Mint is going to be higher than it usually should be, as well as oftentimes the price is usually pretty significant on this coin. Now let's take the gold one. The gold right now is at all-time highs. It has evaporated premiums on almost every single common coin there is out there. Even some pretty solidly formerly rare coins have lost all of their premium because they're just not worth the bump in gold that's caught up to the value of the coin before. Even gold buffaloes now are struggling to really pull solid premiums, where before they were a solid coin above melt price. You have to get up into like an MS63 grade on a lot of like Liberty Head $10 golds from pre-33 gold era, and that's just insane to me now that anything that's circulated, even low mint state, oftentimes is melt value on a coin these days. But it's the truth. It's just what's happened to gold with the premium shooting up to all-time highs. So there are a couple questions I have on this coin we don't have answered yet, like, is the Mint going to make this rare enough that it's actually going to be tough to get for collectors, so they will have retained value even with gold at all-time highs, or are they going to charge a high enough premium on it and have enough of them made that the coin is never going to be able to realistically hold the value they ask collectors to pay to begin with, or it's going to take gold itself moving up significantly to make it actually worth the money? And second, how is the overall collecting market going to react to a Superman coin, not only when it first comes out, but 20 and 30 years down the road? Is the market really going to say, oh yeah, that was super cool and something the Mint just doesn't do, so it's something special? Or are we starting to go the way of countries like NIU, where everything's cool, everything's special, everything's rare, and so nothing is cool, special, or rare? Because that's ultimately what NIU is known for, putting out a whole bunch of super rare, limited edition collectible coins that are super amazing, but there are so many of them that none of them really end up being special unless you're really interested in that particular thing. Because ultimately what we have here is a 1/2 ounce gold coin with Superman on it. I mean, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but with gold at almost $3,400 an ounce right now, it's a 1/2 ounce gold to a lot of people, and I'm skeptical of what's going to happen to this coin depending on those mintage numbers, the price they charge, etc., in the long term. A lot of times, with few exceptions, when the Mint releases something special that has a limited mintage to it, the first year is the best year. It's the year that everybody wants it, they pay for it, they want to get it, but then they decide, I might not want this so much anymore, and they go to sell it. And then as more and more people decide they want to capitalize on that coin and sell it, or maybe just move into something else, the market becomes saturated. The market ends up having too many of them, and people just don't want to pay the money anymore. There are some exceptions to this rule. The 2019 S Enhanced Reverse Proof Silver Eagle is a big one, and that's because only 30,000 of those were minted, making it like the key date for Silver Eagle proofs, or reverse proofs in that case. It's exceptionally hard to get, especially in a 70, so people who got one of those at the mint's extremely low price of I think it was like under $100 if I remember right. When I bought mine, I got super lucky. It was a substantial windfall for any collector who was able to get one, and they have held their value because it is a really low mintage for a set that people do like to acquire, which is Silver Eagles. However, this is not in a set unless they start doing a full set of superheroes, which also would draw into question whether we're turning into a country like Niue, and therefore it draws question for me whether it's going to be able to retain its value over melt value that they actually charge. I'm really skeptical of this coin, whether it's going to be a long-term good investment. I do believe this is going to be a short-term big excitement in the hobby. Whether flippers are going to be able to make money is yet to be determined based on numbers and all that kind of stuff. So whether or not you buy one to sell, it may or may not actually be worth it. A lot of times recently, people who've tried to buy from the mint and then sell at an upcharge when people can't get any more of them have not done so hot because the mint has not provided mintage numbers or prices that allow for flipping, because they're already expensive and they're making a lot of stuff. But it's yet to be determined. It could be something that could be a good deal, might not be. It really depends on a lot of factors. And some of those factors I don't think we can know until we get 20 years down the road, see what else the mint has made, see how desirable these coins still are at that point in time, and all that kind of stuff. There are plenty of other examples of things that are just like that. We had stuff like the 2019 and 2020 West Point quarters. I remember when I was able to pull a substantial amount of money out of a mint state 2019 or 2020 West Point quarter that I got fresh out of a roll. I remember being able to really make bank, honestly, on those coins. But the prices have tapered off. They're not come down astronomically, but they have come down. Remember, there are 2 million of each of them, which is substantially low, but there's still 2 million. People were looking for them in bank boxes, so a lot of them got plucked out by people like me who were actively trying to get them uncirculated from the rolls, and it's affected the price. Nonetheless, West Point quarters are still popular, and it actually added a degree of rarity to that set, making some interest for the National Parks quarters at least. So I don't think that was the worst thing the mint's ever done. I actually thought it was kind of cool. But my point is that the prices have kind of degraded some. The first ones sold did great. The ones that were a little bit after that did okay. And then over time, they've kind of whittled back to the price range, which I thought they were going to be eventually hitting to begin with. Or another one we had just last year is the 2024 Denver Modern Rarity Jefferson Nickels. I've made a video about already. We are seeing prices erode on those rolls and on those coins because people are realizing finally that, yeah, the market has been at these high prices, but they're out there. They're accessible. People have rolls and rolls and rolls of them, and there's a lot of them. And so collectors are getting their fill, it feels like, and those prices have come down. I mean, we've seen prices as high as like $250 a roll, absolutely bonkers, and we're finally seeing those prices come down to high still for 32 million minute of a coin, but more reasonable than they were before. People trying to sell them are having trouble getting those prices anymore because those really, really motivated collectors are getting their fill, and now it's pretty much whatever's left, and it's kind of tanked the market on those. But another one that comes to mind is the 2023 Extra V Cent. So this was one that really a lot of people got super excited about. There's a mark on the coin that I personally don't think is a die variety, but people got excited about the Extra V on the cent, and people are still looking for them, and they still sell for more than a cent, so absolutely, they should be looking for it because that's profit. But remember, for a while there in 2023, they were doing 100, 150 bucks all the time. It felt like they were going absolutely nuts for this extra V on a cent. And the most recent sales of extra Vs on cents, there was one raw one that did $6. One of these did $18, $6, $10. Here's a really clear picture on the picture. It's just very, very clear. $11.99. So people who paid $150 to get it right then in 2023 because it was new, it was exciting, it was all the rage. So people who paid $100 to $150 just 2 years ago have lost about 90% of their value in 2025 on a raw coin. Now, that doesn't mean that graded examples don't still sell. There's a 65 red in a PCGS holder that it was $103 that recently sold, $104, stuff like that. There are ones that still sell that are graded. But those graded prices have come down as well. And honestly, I'm not really sure why the graded prices are still so high. I think that might be a little bit crazy. Because this is a very accessible coin now, raw, that you could get into a 5 holder fairly easily. So it seems like the graded prices are a little inflated to me still, even at $100. But there's some that even sell for under $100 that are graded in a 65 red NGC holder pretty consistently as well. So a couple of years ago, the person could have bought a raw one for $100, or now they could get an NGC MS65 red already graded and attributed for $80 to $90. It's been recognized now that it's more accessible than it originally was thought to be, and so the price has deteriorated over time. Another great example was the Spitting George. Remember the Spitting George quarter that it's got the drool coming out of the side of his mouth? We now realize that there are tons of die chips on numerous dies. That just happens to be a place on good old George's face where a die chip seems to develop on the dies. And so it happened on a lot of dies, and there's a lot of different die chips. And whereas they used to be selling for crazy money, they just don't sell anymore. And now it's realized that it's way less exciting than people initially thought. The hype is gone. One coin that I think is still kind of retaining this hype, and the last one I'm going to mention, is one that I'm going to kind of out here on YouTube, I guess, because I don't believe in this coin long term. I didn't believe in it enough that when it first came out that I was willing to pass up on one, even buying, even though I could have made money potentially. I was concerned about it then. I'm still concerned about it now. And that's the 1966 Roosevelt dime SMS FS401. The 5 on the cheek. It's got the little 5 looking thing on the cheek. It's not a double die. It's not a repunchment mark, and it is just an anomaly. We don't know why it's there. It could have been a mint employee kind of playing around with it, maybe like a super bird, and that's actually how the Cherry Picker's Guide mentions it. It's like a super bird. It looks like a 5 on the cheek. But even the Cherry Picker's Guide just says it's something that shows up on the cheek. It's not something as a well-established variety. It's kind of an anomaly kind of thing. So I was kind of skeptical of it to begin with. Now, the Cherry Picker's Guide mentioned there was only 12 to 15 known at the time, and that's significantly rare. But remember, it's in Roosevelt dimes. If y'all don't know what the Cherry Picker's Guide had to do with Roosevelt dimes, when you get to the Roosevelt dime section, you realize they removed almost as many as they added. They removed almost as many Cherry Picker's Guide varieties as they added, and most of them were except for one, was for the reason that it was removed for lack of collector interest. Roosevelt dime varieties, for some reason, I don't know why, do not retain collector interest. Like, they don't perform well. And I've known this for a long time. I've made the mistake of playing the Roosevelt variety game. In fact, I just had personally sent off for the shop was the one that owned it, the first ever to be sold at public auction, 1971D FS501 repunched mint mark dime, after it came into the Cherry Picker's Guide, the new volume of the new edition. It was the first one to publicly sell. It was the highest grade. It was a top pop, MS64 at PCGS. It's a super strong variety too. It's not like it's a small one. And it was a scarce one too. The 71D repunch mint mark. At the time the Cherry Picker's Guide was written, there was only 5 known to be graded, only 5 known examples. We now know there's probably about twice to 3 times that many, but still under 15 probably examples that exist. And some of those could have been crossovers, so they could be counted twice. It's pretty darn scarce. Let's just put it that way. And yet it still only pulled $600 as one of only 3 in grade as a top pop. So when we come over to this one here with a 5 on the cheek, not even a long established dye variety type, it's just some anomaly on the cheek. The first one to sell in 2023 did $1,500. Absolutely crazy, right? But then a couple months later, another one in 67 did $800. And then most recently, a 67 on is a buy it now on eBay did $500. So somebody sat on it long enough to where somebody finally paid them $500 for it as a buy it now. What a market value of auction is, I don't know. It's hard to know. But here's the thing. Let's look at the numbers of how many are out there. There are 21 in an MS67, and it's not even a top pop. There are 6 in MS68, yet somebody still paid $500 for it. But that doesn't seem to fit with the rest of Roosevelt dime scarce varieties and what they actually tend to do over time. So I think that those numbers are still kind of inflated personally. I think this is a variety that when the market kind of settles out, stuff comes to auction with 21 in a 67, 6 in a 68, and 5 of them in a 66 with over 30 examples of this coin existing, 32 to be specific. I think we have a coin that is selling for way more than it's actually probably going to be worth when the hype and the interest finally erodes away. It is much more accessible than the other one I mentioned that I sold that did almost the same amount of money as the most recent one with 21 in grade and 6 higher. So, but this is an example where the first people that picked up this coin at $1,500 and $800 a couple years ago, it was new, it was exciting. There were only a few of them known. But over time, as it becomes more popular, more people know to look for it, more and more get found. It becomes more accessible, and it becomes a danger to those first people who bought because they bought strong early on, and now we know there's so many more available on the market. So I'm making this video not to crush your hopes and dreams of a coin that comes out that's exciting, because if you're looking for coins and you're trying to turn them into a profit, stuff that people are excited about is a great way to make some money. I'm making this video for the people who are wanting to buy into the hype. They're excited about something they see and they want to get it, and it's dangerous to do that right on the cusp of something new, on the edge of something exciting, because what the value of the coin is actually going to be is not always known in the future. I'm just trying to get you to think about being careful with what you purchase and thinking long term. Is this something that really seems safe for the long term, or is this just something I want right now and I could wait a couple years and the price could come down? Because just because something's selling really strong right now does not mean it's going to sell strong or better in the future. It just means that right now people want it. And so being careful and being cautious of what you're paying for something you actually want is something that needs to happen with collectors as they're considering what they want to add to their collection, especially when something has just come out. Because a lot of times, the first year, the first coins are going to sell strong, and they set a precedent. But a lot of times, when the accessibility floods in with it, that precedent tends to erode instead of appreciate. If scarcity holds, if it stays scarce, that can set a precedent that increases over time. But as more become available, as I said, oftentimes it's just eroded away. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, I would greatly appreciate a like. Also, if you want to see more content like this where I ramble about different coins and what they're doing on the market, or things to kind of watch out for as a new collector or even as an experienced collector to help protect you in your investments in coins for the long haul, make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications buttons below, and so you'll be notified when I have new content coming out. Thanks for watching the video, and be careful out there with that kind of stuff.